welcome back to Coffee with the Wolves, presented by JJC Athletics. As always, I'm Damian Dennis, and I'm joined once again by Jeff DeGraw, our men's and women's track and field coach. Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine right now. Don't ask me that next week.
Yeah. You're kind of in that in between period now. The regular season's done with. You have a week off, more than a week off technically, but about a week off at this point, and then you're moving into the national meet. Just what are you? How are you and your teams kind of utilizing this time off?
Well, first, practice, but it's also just a little. I don't want to say downtime, but just a little bit of relaxation from not necessarily a lot of stress, but just every week preparing for a meet. This week, so far, we've had a great week of practice in getting ready for next week. In fact, as we record this on a Thursday, 1 week from today, we'll be competing. So it gives us some time. We'll have a travel day in there and just get ready. But the one nice thing is we're going back to a place in Utica, New York that we're familiar with, where Nationals was last year. So some of the people are returning. They know the lay of the land, which will help, and they're sort of sophomore leaders. So that'll help with the freshmen who are going.
Yeah. Is there a different approach you take in practice during this time? Do you kind of go about business as usual? Do you take a little bit of a step back just because of that recovery, letting them get a little bit of extra rest? Or do you maybe amp it up a bit to kind of get them prepared for the national meet?
It's probably a little bit of all that. You cut back on the length of workouts, maybe a little higher intensity, just a smidge, but also you want them to be rested and ready for this last week. But the big thing is, and you don't want to get too much rest because I believe wholeheartedly in routine. And we've been in a certain routine since January. And I believe that you cannot mess with that routine because that is what your body and mind are used to right now. Now, what you do within that routine can change, but we practice at the same time. We don't change anything now just because it's the quote national meet, and I've told everybody it's just another track meet that we're getting ready for.
I like that you mentioned routine. That's big in my personal life. I work out 5 days a week. And when my routine gets messed up, it throws me out of whack, and it could
Yes.
ruin my entire week of just exercise, and then outside of the weight room, just everything else even.
Well, and I think one thing that you can relate to, and a lot of people listening can relate to, is when you watch professional sports. And this is especially true, I think, if you watch the NFL and MLB, the teams that tend to clinch early. And when was the last time a team in baseball that won the most games of the year have went on to win the World Series? It doesn't happen that often because all of a sudden they clinch early, they start resting, or like in the NFL, you rest, you're fighting to get that bye week, and then you rest. And you also see a lot of teams who are fighting right to the end get hot in the playoffs because they don't change that routine. And all of a sudden, your body, no matter if it's high school, college, or professional athletes, your body gets used to doing something for months on end. You don't want to mess with that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk a little bit about where your teams are standing right now. I don't know what the rankings are. I saw a post from last week. Men were 4, women were 7th. Have those rankings remained the same?
They came out last night. I posted something on social media. They're still the same. The women are ranked 7th in the country, and the men are 4th. So, with those national rankings, they take into consideration every event, how many performances you've had in that event. To be 4th and 7th in the country, for national rankings, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right. How many student athletes have you had qualify for this national meet? Because I know you've got a list on your door down the hallway here of just, performances and everything. You and I have talked a few times throughout both the indoor and outdoor slates about, how many people, how many kids you've had qualify. Do you know what the total number is currently?
Yeah, we'll travel with 25, 26 athletes. So that's quite a few.
Hmm.
And I'm happy we've had a couple with injuries and stuff like that. And so we could have had a few more, but that's what we're at. We have 17 men, uh, 8, 9 women. So depending on a few things. So, we'll be ready to go.
Yeah. Who are you expecting to maybe perform well? I don't want to say maybe win outright, but just perform well in their event.
Well, right now, just going off the national list, we have the number one steeplechasers in the country for both the men and the women. Andrew Sarletti in the men's steeple and Emma Cisic in the women's steeplechase. So obviously they're ranked number one in the country. And it's sometimes you don't. It's better to be the hunted than the hunter, or whichever. But they have a lot of confidence in their events. They've, especially Emma. Emma has improved tremendously this year. She's ran well over about a minute faster than she did last year. So she's really improved in that. Also, we have the number 2 and 3 800 men in Alex and Chris Johnson. I should say Chris and Alex Johnson. And then Alex is number 2 in the 400. We have the number 3 400 hurdler in Noah Smith. Number 3 relays for the men in the 4x1 and 4x4. And right now we have the top 4x800 meter relay time. So we have some athletes who are up there. Kaya Robertson, who's also a basketball player, she has the number 3 shot put. So we got some people who, on the performance list going into nationals, are up top. But our goal for each athlete, first and foremost, is to, if you score in the national meet, that means place in the top 8, you're an All-American. And that is, for me, and I think each individual athlete and our relays, that is the main goal. If you can finish in the top 8, you're an All-American, and that is something you'll have for the rest of your life.
For you and the team, you mentioned the All-American honor, placing top 8. Is basically winning a national championship the end goal, or is the All-American honor kind of the end goal for what you're expecting out of your athletes?
Well, ultimately, to win a national, I like, and I would never put more people in. And I talk to, we're going to have people running multiple events or performing in multiple events, like Ozzy Gamboa is number 2 in the shot and disc. Well, he's doing both, but they're on different days.
Yeah.
And then we have some other people doing multiple events, but I talk to each person about what they're going to do because I don't ever want to jeopardize somebody's position to win an individual national championship.
Yeah.
Now, we can't do anything about the team, and I'm sure every coach in the country sits down and figures out points and, where their team can place. However, you can't have team points unless your individuals do well. So first and foremost, it's what each individual can accomplish or their relay.
Yeah. That's one thing I really like about track and field. It's both an individual effort that then bleeds into being a team effort.
Correct. Cross country in our sport, cross country is basically the team sport where you have to have 5 people who score to have a shot. In track, like you just said, you have to have the individuals, and then that will add up to team points. But you can't sit around and try to figure team points until the meet's going on because it's a 3-day meet and a lot can happen in those 3 days.
Right. Now that the regular season's over, I'm kind of curious just to ask your thoughts about overall performance throughout the year up to this point. I mean, we've kind of talked about it really because we're talking about, all the personal records and qualifiers. But as a coach, how have you seen this team grow to this point? And what are you just happy to know about your student athletes athletic-wise?
I think everybody's, learned a lot this year about themselves, about what it takes to be a collegiate athlete. I don't care what level you go to, running in college, whether it's at a 2 year school or a 4 year school, it's different. It's a different mindset. All of a sudden now, you know, you're running, especially here at JJC, because we run against basically all of our meets are against 4 year schools. So they're freshmen or sophomores, and in most instances, running against seniors and maybe 5th year seniors at 4 year school. So I tell them, you know, it's like when you were a freshman in high school, you being on the varsity and running against seniors.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And it's a growing process throughout the year. And the big thing is they have to believe, and we work a lot on the mental aspect of everything. They have to believe in their themselves and their ability. They can't, you know, this isn't like a football game or a basketball game where, you know, you could get in a basketball game, you can get blocked out, somebody can foul you. In track, you're only competing against yourself. Nobody's trying to take you out or, you know, anything like. Sometimes that stuff happens like in the hurdle races, but there's no physical contact. The only person you have to be concerned with is your lane and your ability to run, throw, jump, whatever the case may be.
Awesome. You know, I wanted to talk a little bit about the mental aspect you mentioned. How do you kind of coach that in your student athletes?
Well, I think that starts from day one where you have to believe in them first, and you can't fake it because kids will know.
Yeah.
Kids will know when you're faking it. You know, our coaches, we believe in every one of our athletes, and you have to give them positive feedback, but you also have to be, you know, you have to get on them some days. You know, I'm more, and a lot of people tell you this, I'm more the old school way. You know, it's not all yelling and stuff like that, but sometimes you need to, you know, stick your foot in their rear end sometimes to get them going. You just have to do that because at the end of the season, they don't want to be disappointed. And I tell them every day, you don't want to look back and say, what if? What if I would have not missed those 3 practices? What if, you know, but at the end of the day, each student athlete, all they can do is look in the mirror and say, did I give everything I could have this year? And that's all we can ever ask for.
Right.
You know, this isn't for me. You know, like when you walk in my office, it's about every one of our student athletes. Their pictures are on my office walls.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. I've never ran, jumped, or thrown for anybody in a track meet, and they don't want me to either.
That's funny. So, Coach, I don't know if we have too much more to talk about. Is there anything else you want to add just as you prepare for this national meet?
No, this is a fun time of the year, and I like our group that is going. I think, you know, we still have a week, but I think we'll be ready. I think this is also a fun time for them because we're taking some people who have never been on a plane before.
Oh, that'll
And
be fun.
and that is and I've done that a lot traveling throughout my years of coaching, and it's always fun for these kids. And I know it's a quote business trip, but I also tell them to enjoy because they're going to, you know, Utica, New York and Upper New York, very old community. And when we're driving around, they go, Coach, it looks so old here. And I tell them, think about this. Utica, New York was a town before Illinois was ever established. You know, so, and they learn a little bit about history and different parts of the country. And that's all. And this is stuff they will remember for the rest of their lives, whether we finish first in the nation or we finish 10th in the nation.
Right.
This is an experience they'll have for the rest of their life.
Cool. Well, Coach, we're going to wrap it up there, but, you know, hopefully we'll have you on one more time. We're kind of ending not just the end of your season, but athletics here at JJC, the spring. We're going to move into summer. You know, I'm going on vacation at some point.
I'm sure we all will at some point, yes.
So, you know, with that said, we're moving close to the end of Coffee with the Wolves for the year. Pick back up in the fall. Of course, you know, you're the cross-country coach then. So if we don't talk to you again, later this month, we'll have you on for sure in the fall. So
Oh, yes. All right. Well, Damien, I've enjoyed it, and thank you.
cool. Yeah, and catch us again here next week on Coffee with the Wolves.